Hi everyone, N.A.T here, and today I will show you how to use reference tracks to improve your mix and master. Step number 1, you will need these two free plugins. Voxengo Span to compare the spectrum balance, the balance between the mids and the sides. Make sure you have sides selected here in underlay, and make sure you have these settings so you can easily read the average volumes of the frequencies. We also have correlation and mid-side volume meters, which are very useful as well. And make sure to have Julian loudness meter, which measures loudness. You can also use an oscilloscope to compare how fat or clipped your waveform is compared to your reference tracks. And if you don't have this plugin, which is not free, you can simply create a resampling track like I did here. Make sure you select resampling as an audio input, and then you simply record 1 bar or more of your track like this. And then you can compare the waveform in detail with your reference track. Step number 2, preparing reference tracks. I don't like to have the reference track in my arrangement like this, but instead I cut exactly 16 bars of just a drop from my favorite reference tracks and created a template with this channel called reference with all my reference tracks. So by just soloing this channel, I can reference from wherever I am in my song like this.
That's what you're coming for.
Remember to have the output of your reference channel set to exit out, so your reference tracks don't go through your mastering chain. Step 3, referencing. Each track, including mine, is unique. So when checking my references for volume, EQ, and compression, I'm just looking for guidelines, and then I adjust volumes, EQ, and compression according to what my specific track needs. I check by ear for the volumes of the main elements like kick, bass, clap, and hi-hats. The kick seemed louder in my reference tracks, and I tried to make mine louder, but I preferred it at this level. Remember that sometimes sounds in your reference tracks might be louder not because of volume, but because of more compression or saturation. Then with span, I compared the spectrum balance of my reference track spectrum with my own track. Usually reference tracks tend to have lows and highs that don't go over this line, as you can see. And they tend to have this spectrum shape where you have this much bass, this much highs, and a little bit of a dip here. But not always. Sometimes the song is nice and flat and full like this. So I make sure my track is kinda like that, as you can see. And I also make adjustments by ear to the spectrum with an EQ, as you see here. Very slight adjustments to match how my reference tracks sound. Using reference tracks can give you a great idea of whether your lows are at the right level, whether your mids are too empty or too full, and whether you have too much piercing highs or too little. In fact, check for your hi-hats levels. I also check how much compression my track has compared to my reference tracks. But then again, deciding how much compression your track needs, it's up to you. Then I check on span for the sides, how loud they are, and where in the spectrum they are cut. As you can see in these reference tracks, the sides, this red part, are usually close to the mids in blue. Sometimes a little quieter, and sometimes slightly louder. But overall, as you can see here, they're always quieter than the mids. And as you can see on the master and on various single instruments, I have this cut on the sides. And I just make sure I don't forget to cut the sides, which is important for more clarity, and that I try different slopes and frequencies to find the best fit. As you can see, almost all reference tracks are cut somewhere in this area, on the sides. My sides could be louder compared to my reference tracks, but I like my song like this. If your track is already EQ'd, compressed, but still lacks presence, even though on the meter it's already pretty loud, it's probably lacking a bit of saturation. So I check by ear how saturated those reference tracks are, and then add saturation on my master and try to match the same levels of saturation. Let's try a subtle tape. Let's try clean again. Before, after. Let's also use a little bit of dry wet. And then I of course compare the perceived loudness of my track with my reference tracks. And if it's not the same, or if it is the same but doesn't feel the same, I go back and try to understand why. Maybe my track is just not supposed to feel as loud, or maybe I need to check again for how much compression, saturation I have, OTT, the levels, the EQing, the filtering, how much I'm pushing the limiter, all those things. Let's do a quick comparison. My track, pretty loud. Maybe I pushed it too much for this video. The reference tracks,
that's what you're coming for, but they don't wanna let.
Also, as I said before, looking at the waveform of a track, it's important. For example, if we look at the waveform of the Skrillex remix, we can see that the song feels so loud because it's literally clipped, as you can see. And also the drums feel so punchy and full because they are literally filling up everything like a sausage. Same in this house track, the kick is so fat, as you can see. Unlike the kick in my track. So I tried fattening up this part of the kick, as you can hear, and as you can see. But in the end I just kept my original kick because I thought it sounded better in my track. Also, not all reference tracks have necessarily a ultra limited kick. Also, looking at the RMS perceived volume and the peak volume and how close they are to each other, you can get the idea of how loud your track is going to be. For example, the Skrillex song is like this. The loudest part, the RMS, it's almost the same as the peak, while in other tracks there's more space, as you can see. And my track is like this. So this is mostly how I reference. Couple notes, I alternate between listening through monitors and headphones. The monitor give more a sense of space and punch, while headphones of high quality like these reveal the micro details, and also I find they reveal exactly where to place the cut when using a high pass filter on an EQ in mid-side mode. I also use calibration, especially when using monitors, because usually a room, especially a bedroom like this, colors the sound so much, as you can see in it, and especially in this area, the low mids, the lows, it's very difficult to get the right balance here if you're having this wild colorations in your room. So I do recommend calibration. This software I'm using, it's called Sound ID Reference by Sonarworks. Also, using my audio interface, I switch between my monitors and my MixCube, which is a mono speaker and very mid-heavy, and it makes it easy to compare your tracks to your reference tracks. And if my track lacks punch on a speaker like this, which simulates low quality speakers, consumer speakers. And it's also a great way to check if your track still has energy even without the subs. Then I upload my song on Apple Music and reference it on my car speakers or the stereo in my living room. And also on Apple Music I also have my reference tracks, as you can see, in a nice playlist. They are the cut version, just like in Ableton. They're perfectly cut cut on the drop, so I can only focus on the drop, as you can hear, and they transition seamlessly from one to another. In this way I can quickly condition my ears to the sound of those reference tracks in the different type of stereos, and then I listen to my track. And I have my playlist set on play next, so I can quickly compare it to my reference tracks. And last note, all my tracks are waves purchased from Beatport in order to have the best quality possible when referencing. So that's my method for using reference tracks when mastering. It helped me understand my mixes much better. If you find it helpful, leave a comment. If you like the video, leave a like, subscribe. Thank you for watching and see you next time.